Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We'd like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of Lewis Hamilton and Abu Dhabi. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got them bang to rights. Following their booing at the F175 launch event in London, the Verstappens and Red Bull reprised their long-standing argument that their toxic reputation is because they are the victims of British media bias. They have long claimed that this was evident when they were battling against Lewis Hamilton, toying with Lando Norris or bantering George Russell. But over here, we know that this is simply not true. They have been booed all over the world, including by Red Bull fans in Miami, general fans in Texas, Spain, Abu Dhabi, and Brazil, despite Max having a Brazilian girlfriend, to name but a few. The only reason they are able to keep this argument running is because the compliant media let their false claims go unchallenged. They have a hard-earned toxic reputation because they are the official nasty team of F1. That being said, the British media openly support them against Sir Lewis. It's the British public that resort to booing them because they believe their own eyes and reject the lamestream media gaslighting. Sky Sports, as the official F1 broadcaster, are expectedly in the forefront of the gaslighting, but they are unsurprisingly facing stiff competition from the publicly funded British Broadcasting Corporation. We have already demonstrated in numerous videos how the BBC's anti-Lewis bias is of a more virulent strain than any other commercial media. We have shown how they are openly favouring the Dutch Verstappen, Belgian Lando, or any other suitably complexioned driver that they can find. In this video we will be showing how their bias against Ferrari's Lewis manifested in their coverage of the first 2 days of the Australian GP weekend, which has been completely dominated by him. They have been so focused on finding something sensationally anti-Lewis, that anything that didn't fit their narrative was ignored or minimized. The toxicity underpinning their burning desire to see Hamilton crash and burn is so pungent that it is easy for us to show you. For example, in our previous video on the slimy Andrew Benson, we showed how his headline, Hamilton 12th as Norris fastest in Melbourne practice, was accompanied with a photo of the GOAT in his Ferrari. This would have exuded a more positive or neutral tone, if written for example as, Norris fastest as Hamilton 12th in Melbourne practice with an image of Lando in his McLaren. The headline and accompanying image made it quite clear that he was fully aware that Hamilton mania was dominating the media attention. The text also made it clear that he was glorying in what was considered to be a poor performance by the overhyped Ferrari debutant in his first free practice session, when his 8-season-old teammate had come third with a time that was 0.610 seconds faster. There was barely any mention of the fact that the Max that everyone had been claiming was still a title contender, despite being in the car that was supposedly a distant third fastest, came fifth. This was an inauspicious start for the 4-time world champion, who had been in the senior Red Bull team since 2016 and was going for a record equaling 5 consecutive world titles. But you won't get any of that information from the BBC coverage, even though Sky Sports led their coverage with it. Is that an indication of how much the white British Broadcasting Corporation journalist hates the black British GOAT? Well, Sky may have revised their coverage in time, but their digital footprint shows that Brundle's sensational account of how alarmed he was by Hamilton's demeanour after free practice 1 went viral as it was reproduced by the likes of you-know-who? Yes, that's right, Planet F1, MSN and Daily Express to name but a few. Funny that only the Sky Sports coverage of Lando and Max's concerns about their car made the top news that Google threw up for searching both names. However, it is noticeable that Hamilton's name and thumbnails come up for searches of the other two, but a search for Hamilton himself only throws up news about Martin's alarm. Is that not evidence of Sir Lewis dominating the media coverage of Australia, with the media focused on bad news about yours truly? The BBC's anti-Lewis bias was particularly noxious. Their favourite Belgian had topped FP1 as hoped, and Sir Lewis had not fared as well, so they were in high spirits. It did not matter that Max had also faltered, because they had someone else for their anti-Lewis sentiment to focus on. Unsurprisingly, Benson was flummoxed when it came to second practice, where Sir Lewis had made the biggest time improvement of 1.212 seconds, to end the session by climbing 7 places to 5th. Of course, that was newsworthy enough for him to update his headline to Hamilton 5th in Melbourne with Leclerc fastest, with yet another image of him in his Ferrari. Seems like whichever way you cut it, they have to lead with Hamilton's image. Funny that, given how assiduously they work to undermine his legacy. Expectedly, Benson went into great detail about how Hamilton had been slower than Leclerc all day. Under the circumstances, one can understand why he did not see things in the positive light that the Ferrari debutant had made giant strides by effecting the biggest improvement in time to climb the most steps up the ladder. But in stark contrast, his always look on the bright side of life demeanor did manifest itself in his coverage of Max's second free practice session. In this case, he went to great lengths to minimize how badly his second session had gone, by suggesting that rain was expected during the race anyway, so he would be able to use his excellence in wet conditions to get back in the fight for victory. Oh yes, what about Sir Lewis's excellence in the rain then? Nothing? Okay Andy, we get where you are coming from. After all, Hamilton complained while Verstappen said. However, a review of the data shows that Sir Lewis ended the session 2 places above Max, who had dropped 2 places to 7th, after making the least improvement of 0.633 seconds in time among our sample group. I guess things were looking so bleak for Benson's anointed that he had to start praying for rain. He also looked to extrapolate the data, to give his second favourite Norris a boost. Unfortunately for him, in so doing, he had to bump up Sir Lewis as well, because after the late race simulations had been corrected for tyre and fuel weight, Leclerc still appeared to be the fastest, a smidge ahead of Norris, followed by Hamilton, Piastri, Russell and Verstappen. But positive Hamilton is the one who's complaining, while angsty, foul-mouthed and ill-tempered Max is just saying, "I won't go there," even though this has been temptingly set up for my newly discovered catchphrase. Benson thinks he's really sly and cunning, but his malice is oozing out for all to see. Or is it racism? Are we trying to say it's racism without saying it's racism? I tried. I really tried. So, it looks like the carefully spun narrative of the F1 media is falling apart. Doesn't look like Norris will be able to scupper off into the distance. So where does that put him given that he has told the whole world that he ain't got the stomach for wheel-to-wheel? It appears that Oscar is more likely to be the lead McLaren driver this season. Or, at any rate, make it difficult if not impossible for McLaren to relegate him to support driver. It is also clear that despite a disappointing conclusion to qualifying for Ferrari, the gap between the two was less than the media could get their teeth into, otherwise we'd be hearing all about it. The fact that this was a strong positive for Sir Lewis to take away from a disappointing qualifying session for Ferrari must be eating Benson and his wake of vultures up. Forza Ferrari.